Hello and welcome to the first episode of Markers and Monsters. I'm your host, Colin Richards, and today I've got a massive thunderstorm brewing outside. What better time to draw one of my favorite spooky creatures, Cthulhu. Now, just a quick overview before we get started of the process here. I've measured out a piece of smooth Bristol board, basically cut it in half, a 9 by 12 piece of paper, divide it in half, and then I frame out a little 4.5 by 6.5 window. I'm going to be doing a pretty loose sketch of Cthulhu in pencil first, just so I know what I'm doing. Render with the markers, and then inks on top. And that'll do it. Let's get started. Well, if you're not familiar with Cthulhu, let me just give you a quick overview here. Now, Cthulhu is a bizarre creature that was created by writer H.P. Lovecraft, and he was the title character, or title creature, of the story The Call of Cthulhu, which was published in Weird Tales magazine in 1928. Now, Cthulhu is kind of an odd being. Physically, he resembles kind of a man-shaped bipedal type thing with big dragon wings, scales, and a head that's vaguely octopoid-esque. He's considered to be a extremely powerful entity, and as it is, he sits in his city of Relea, which lies sunken below the South Pacific Ocean, and he is dead but dreaming. And when the stars are right, apparently he will rise again, which is a terrible thing because being a creature of vast cosmic power, he will wipe out humanity and pretty much any other life on Earth with merely a thought. It's like a human waking up and finding a single ant on his bed, and squishing it. We are the ants, and Cthulhu is the human in this little allegory. Cthulhu is a lot of fun to draw because in the story, The Call of Cthulhu, he's only vaguely described. You get the idea that he has the head that's vaguely like an octopus and that he's got the wings and bipedal. But other than that, it's really up to the artist to depict however he wants. Now, just when I'm doing this drawing here, I chose to do kind of a classic Cthulhu. A lot of people do, the green Cthulhu with the red eyes and stuff like that. I've seen other artists do their interpretations on it, and things are really strange. But I don't know. This is just fun for me to do, and like I said before, these drawings, this is all about fun for me. So that's what I chose to do. Now, I was introduced to the whole Cthulhu mythos and probably most of the writings of H.P. Lovecraft. I assume I'm not alone in this, but through gaming. There's tons of games, video games, board games, adventure books, all kind of stuff that involve not just Cthulhu, but the whole Cthulhu mythos, as it's come to be called, and the writings of H.P. Lovecraft. Cosmic horror is another way of putting it. But all these bizarre, powerful creatures and strange things with unpronounceable names. And there's tons of great stuff out there that involve that. You don't just have to go out, pick up an H.P. Lovecraft book and try to figure this stuff out. You can kind of, through osmosis, I'd say, gain insights into what the whole thing's about. And I know Cthulhu, they named the entire mythos after him, even though he only appeared in that one story. So it's really strange. But then again, in the Lovecraft writings, most of the creatures that are named only appear in one story that they're a part of. But it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of weird, unpronounceable names. Nyarlathotep and Azathoth and all kind of other things. Lots of consonants mashed together in weird ways, so that's real fun to say. But yeah, if you've ever played the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game that was put out by Chaosium, I think, that's just a ton of fun. Arkham Horror is a board game version of the same kind of thing where you're investigating various goings-on in a spooky town. You may have to run into cultists or Cthulian creatures, stuff like that. Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth is a great video game, a horror game. So yeah, there's plenty of that stuff out there to get into, and if you are even vaguely interested, I say go for it, man. I say that about everything, though. We live in one of the greatest ages of mankind with the internet. All this stuff is right at your fingertips. So if you're vaguely interested in Cthulhian stuff, go for it, man. Just you can just type Cthulhu into Google or Bing or whatever, and there you go, and go from there. I would definitely recommend, though, at least trying to read, I don't know, maybe some of the shorter Lovecraft stories or things in that vein, just to get an idea of where it came from. I like to know your roots, as it were. But there's some really good stories. A lot of the prose, being that it was written so long ago, I know can turn a lot of people off, and it's slow moving, and it doesn't really rely very much on gore or, you know, people being ripped apart or anything like that. It's more of like a creepy kind of horror, and that I think that's really cool. Broaden your horizons, get into something new if you want to, or if not, just enjoy watching me draw Cthulhu here. It's all good. We're pretty relaxed here. So at this point, I should be almost ready to start inking. You know, adding in just the little details and stuff like that, going over various things, adding in the little veins and whatnot. Now, generally, I keep it kind of loose. As I'm doing this, I can go back in once the ink is completely dry and add more color in here, there, where I want. I've even done marker drawings similar to this where I layer the inks on first and then put the markers on. And it kind of gives a different vibe to it. This, I just decided to throw the inks on last. I like that the black inks really kind of pop out and accentuate all the little features of them, all those little nooks and crannies, the wrinkly skin and stuff like that. I think that looks really good. But yeah, if you want to do something like this and you want to start with the inking, laying that down, then that is perfectly fine. Just make sure that ink is completely dry, because your markers will start to smear. And I know I've had to replace a couple marker tips just because the ink soaks into it, and anytime you're drawing with that color, then it leaves a little bit of a black smudgy part too. But yeah, so just adding in these lines, and one of the things that's really great about drawing Cthulhu or other kind of really organic shapes and forms and stuff like that is you don't have to be precise. Like if you're drawing a building, you have to make sure all the lines are completely straight, your angles are perfect and whatnot. And here, with him being so mushy and tentacly, and it's a lot of fun to draw. You can just go wild kind of and not really worry too much about it. When I'm putting in the suckers on the underside of his tentacles, they're mostly just little dots or even little like half circles, kind of a thing like that, and just to give the impression of texture. And they're not mathematically perfect. I didn't get a ruler and figure out like, okay, each one is X number of centimeters apart, and that's a lot of fun. It gives you a lot of freedom that some other drawings don't do, and yeah, it's just really neat to be able to do this and kind of pop it out really quick. Now, one of the things that I will say when you're doing this kind of work too is with the markers and those colors that you laid on there, you're really going to want, especially with an organic shape, to not just lay in one color of green. I think I used, I don't know, 5, 6 maybe on this, just all different types, and it gives that feeling of organicness. Like in nature, not many things are just a single shade, So all the different layers of green and their different colors really kind of add to give some texture to it. And then when you're inking on top of it, I would definitely suggest that you let the markers come through. You don't need ink over every square inch of it. I know I'm putting a lot on this guy, but even still, there's areas where it's just the marker kind of showing through. Too much texture and it's not going to look right. Generally stick to putting texture into the shadowed areas. I think that's going to look really good. And I know you need to put the little octopus suckers there on the bottom, and that's fine, and that definitely gives a little bit of texture there. But You don't need to go too crazy, I guess. And I guess that's part of it with doing these, is that you learn just through the art of doing it when it's good to put in texture, when it's not. Like your eye just kind of tends to see and tell, and that's really cool. That's one of the things I love about being an artist, is being able to just know sometimes what needs done, and that comes through practice and experimentation and stuff. Yeah, it looks like he is wrapping up at this point, which is really great. Looking pretty good. I kept the background simple, just kind of a blue underwater kind of a deal. Sometimes we'll fill in the background and make it look really elaborate or whatever. This one I just wanted to be a portrait and focus mainly on him and his face. And that's another thing, as I was saying before, about being an artist and just knowing when to do stuff. Sometimes you just know when not to do anything in the background. Just leave it simple and let it focus on the creature. All right, let's get these inks finished up here. It's coming along really nice, and yeah, it's looking great to me. Then go back in, touch up a couple of the areas. And another great tool to use is one of these jelly pens in white, because you can draw on top of darks, basically. You don't have to keep anything masked off while doing it. And put in the bubbles, put in little highlights here and there. It works out really good, I think. So he is almost done, almost ready to get framed out. Put on the signature, and boom, you've got yourself a Cthulhu. Here's a better look at him right now. This is from the scan. Well, that's about it. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you join me next time on Markers and Monsters. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great content, and leave any comments you might have below. For more cool artwork, check out my various social media sites, Facebook, DeviantArt, Etsy, links of which are all in front of you on the screen. Alright, until next time, I'm Colin Richards, and I'll see you on the next episode of Markers and Monsters.